Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a sledgehammer to the conventional rules of business and showing you how to build something genuinely meaningful today. If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by all that traditional advice you hear, the stuff about grueling startups, massive business plans, and chasing giant funding rounds, you are in exactly the right place. So, let me ask you a question right out of the gate. What if literally everything you know about business is just wrong? What if all that toxic advice you hear about endless hustle, taking on massive risk, and growing at all costs is actually completely backwards? Well, we are going to take traditional business advice down to the studs and rebuild it from the ground up. It's time for a massive shift in perspective. You see, this explainer is heavily inspired by the team at 37 Signals, which is a deliberately small, incredibly profitable software company. Through 2 major recessions and a burst.com bubble, they completely ignored all the so-called rules of the real world. They skipped the giant marketing budgets, they didn't have a board of directors, and they absolutely refused to work 80-hour weeks. And guess what? They prospered anyway. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the new reality. Business is now accessible to everyone. Let's dive right into this first major shift. Seriously, the barrier to entry has completely evaporated. Today, you absolutely do not need to drain your life savings or grind out these miserable 100-hour work weeks. Technology has made starting a business incredibly accessible. Things that used to cost thousands of dollars, they're a few bucks now, or even totally free. It's a real game changer because it means anyone can start without taking on a boatload of risk. In fact, keeping your day job to maintain your cash flow while you work on your project on the side is just an incredibly smart move. You don't even need to rent an office anymore. And because of this new reality, it's high time we retire the word entrepreneur. Let's be honest, it carries a lot of baggage and kind of sounds like an exclusive members-only club. Instead, we should just call anyone who creates a new business a starter. You don't need a fancy MBA or an expensive suit. You just need an idea, a little bit of confidence, and a push to get going. Moving on to Section 2, Takedowns of Traditional Business. We are debunking toxic corporate myths. Before we can build, we really gotta unlearn. So let's destroy a major cliche right now. The idea that failure is some required rite of passage. You always hear gurus say fail early and often, right? Well, a Harvard Business School study actually found that founders who failed previously have about a 23% success rate on their next venture. And you know what? That is the exact same success rate as someone who has never started a business before. Meanwhile, founders who are already successful see their success rate jump to 34%. So the takeaway here is that success is the experience that actually counts. Evolution doesn't linger on past failures. It builds on what works. Next up on the chopping block, long-term business plans. Look, unless you've got a crystal ball hiding in your desk, long-term planning is pure fantasy. You simply cannot control market conditions, the economy, or what your competitors are going to do. We should really call them what they are, business guesses. Because when you turn a guess into a rigid plan, you're just putting blinders on and you completely lose your ability to improvise. The absolute worst time to make a massive decision is before you've even begun. Stop letting blind guesses dictate your future. And what is up with the corporate world's blind obsession with endless growth? Think about it. We don't judge a great institution like Harvard or Oxford by how many global franchise branches they open every year. So why do we automatically assume a business must mindlessly expand? Being small isn't just a stepping stone to getting big. It is a fantastic destination in and of itself. You really just need to find your business's right, profitable size instead of chasing endless expansion for the sake of it. Finally, we need to talk about our culture's weird idolization of the workaholic. You know the type, the person constantly pulling all-nighters, sleeping under their desk. But honestly, throwing sheer hours at a problem is basically a form of intellectual laziness. It creates massive burnout, it ruins team morale, and it leads to terrible, exhausted decision-making. The real hero in the office isn't the one staying until midnight. It's the one who figured out a faster, smarter way to get things done and went home at 5 p.m. Okay, Section 3, Scratch Your Own Itch. This is all about how to find your perfect idea. Let's see how all this unlearning turns into actionable advice. How do you actually find that winning idea? It's shockingly simple. Just scratch your own itch. Make something you actually want to use. When you are solving a problem that you personally have, you instantly know if the solution you're making is any good. You don't need expensive proxy focus groups or endless boring market studies because the light bulb is already on. You are the target market. And hey, this isn't just some modern software startup trend. We're talking about historic titans of industry here. James Dyson was super annoyed by his vacuum constantly losing suction, so he just invented the bagless cyclonic vacuum. Vic Firth was frustrated by mismatched drumsticks in the Boston Symphony, so he started matching them by weight and pitch down in his basement. Bill Bowerman literally ruined his family's waffle iron pouring hot rubber into it just to make lighter track shoes for his athletes, and that births Nike. Mary Kay Wagner simply bought the skincare formulas she was already personally using and loving. Every single one of them just scratched their own itch.
So you found an itch to scratch. The most absolutely crucial thing you can do right now is just start making something. No more excuses. The most common, frankly pathetic excuse people use is that they have no time. But you don't need to quit your day job to start. Just squeeze out a few extra hours a week. Instead of binge watching TV or playing video games, work on your idea for an hour at night. The perfect time to start is literally never going to arrive. You're always going to feel too young, too old, too busy, or too broke.
This brings us to Section 4, Do More with Less. We're going to look at why staying lean is your ultimate advantage. A lot of people think securing massive outside funding is the holy grail. But honestly, taking investor money is often a noose. It forces you to give up control of your own baby. You end up answering to board members instead of following your own vision. It completely shifts your focus from building a great, sustainable business to pushing for a quick 3 to 5 year cash-out flip. And the most dangerous part? It pushes your actual customers to the bottom of the priority list because suddenly you're building what your investors want, not what your users actually need. Plus, endlessly pitching investors is just a massive distraction from building a great product. So avoid that investment hangover entirely. The truth is you need way less than you think to get going. You got to embrace frugality. Ask yourself, do you really, truly need a full-time support person right now? Or could you just handle those inquiries yourself for a bit? Do you actually need to lease an office? The folks at 37 Signals started out by sharing office space, running on a single server, and the founder answered all the customer emails himself. Huge, world-changing companies start in tiny garages all the time. When you stay small and lean like that, you get a massive advantage. You can afford to draw a line in the sand and stand for something real. Take Vinny's Sub Shop in Chicago, for example. They get this incredible fresh bakery bread early every morning, and the very second they run out of that fresh bread, which is usually by 2 or 3 p.m., they just lock the doors and close the shop for the day. They flatly refuse to sell a subpar sandwich on day-old bread just to squeeze out a few extra bucks. They have a backbone, and that is exactly how you attract fiercely loyal superfans instead of just a mildly interested generic audience. The bottom line is you don't need a massive team or a giant pile of venture capital to make a serious dent in the universe. Just look at Craigslist. With a remarkably tiny team, they completely disrupted the entire traditional newspaper classified ad business, pulling in tens of millions. Or look at the Drudge Report, literally one simple web page run by one guy that sent absolute shockwaves through the entire global news industry. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on. Are you going to keep using the depressing, real world as an excuse to delay your dreams? Or are you finally ready to stop planning, stop guessing, and start making your dent in the universe today? The tools are sitting right in front of you. Let's get to work.